Imagine, if you will, that silence rather than exertion serves as your deepest reservoir of strength. Consider this: the swiftness with which respect and attention, even fixation, can be attained merely by stepping away. Not with anger, nor as a demonstration of resolve, but simply by exiting mentally, emotionally, and spiritually without providing justification. Friedrich Nietzsche, a figure both feared and misconstrued in the landscape of modern philosophy, contended that relinquishing dependency on others incites them to depend on you. The act of ceasing pursuit, explanation, and reaction incites curiosity and regret in others, triggering their pursuit. Nietzsche's stark revelation was this: the quest for approval is akin to enslavement. Pursue it, and one diminishes. Offer explanations, and they cease to heed. Remain present for those who overlook your absence, and you fade even while standing before them. Yet detaching, truly letting go, transforms everything. Your silence, more resonant than any spoken word. Your remoteness, a form of presence. Those who once underestimated your worth begin to feel unease. Society teaches that visibility demands noise, that significance is tied to performance, to respond, appease, pursue. However, Nietzsche imparted that true dominion is quiet, asserting that by disengaging from the game, one commands the board. In today's segment of the Deep Dive Psychology podcast, we venture beyond superficial, ignore the opinion of others, slogans to dissect the psychological underpinnings of why ignoring others alters power dynamics, redefines relationships, and often unveils truths more potent than spoken words. You will discover why being elusive generates more allure than availability, the clarity that indifference brings, revealing true allies versus those siphoning your energy, and Nietzsche's insight that genuine empowerment begins when comprehension is no longer sought. This isn't about pettiness or feigned disinterest, but rather about attaining completeness, so unequivocally whole that others sense their own incompletion in your absence. If you've ever invested in those who barely noticed, sought closure and respect that remained elusive, or are eager to cease performing and reclaim your intrinsic influence, this is your moment of transformation, because learning to walk away, not emotionally, but energetically, yields an extraordinary outcome. They pursue, not due to your departure, but your newfound freedom from the need to remain. Let's delve in. There exists an unspoken longing within most individuals, an absence revealed not through conversation, but discernible through their speech and movement. The frequent glances at devices, as though seeking permission to exist. It's the yearning to be acknowledged. From childhood, we are conditioned to equate applause with value. Commendation follows academic excellence and politeness, establishing a cycle. Life becomes an audition, constantly, quietly, desperately. Yet Nietzsche discerned this performance, realizing that identities form through cycles of feedback, reacting to affirmative nods or judgmental gazes like trained beings. What is termed self-expression often masks self-adjustment. Expression is lost to accommodation of others' expectations. Over time, one's identity dissolves into others' reflections. Consider this. How frequently have you stifled your views to maintain harmony? Replied hastily to messages, not out of desire, but fear of what silence might imply? Remained in situations, relationships, or personas to avoid misinterpretation? We mistake visibility for worth, yet Nietzsche contended otherwise. Rarity confers value. Ubiquity renders one inconsequential. Constant availability erodes recognition of one's depth. Others perceive not a person, but a facilitator, a reflector of emotions, a mere background fixture. Pursuing visibility leads, paradoxically, to invisibility. People pursue not what chases them, but what remains unattainable. They value what asserts, "I will not diminish for your comfort." However, retreating from validation is challenging. Detachment from the allure of praise proves difficult because a part of you believes invisibility equates insignificance. This misconception ensnares, performing to remain mute, consenting against true desires, offering smiles when weary, explicating when silence suffices. Gradually, one's essence dissipates through each coerced expression, each elaborate justification, each boundary breached to avoid others' disappointment. Nietzsche's philosophy transcends cold withdrawal and instead seeks liberation. It's the descent from the stage, reclaiming one's essence sacrificed for fleeting accolades. The pursuit of constant attention trades one's soul, essence, and serenity. Upon this realization, not only mentally but behaviorally, transformations occur. Responses are no longer obligatory. There's no need for justification. The crowd is bypassed, and silence articulates more profoundly than presence. Freed from the need for visibility to affirm worth, your invisibility becomes compelling, not by vocal volume, but because of reclaimed energy. Departure is not out of spite, but sovereign independence. Those who once slighted you experience your absence like a chilling breeze, not because you vanished, but because your need for visibility dissipates. A transformation occurs with indifference, when attention, affection, or others' opinions no longer tether emotional states. Indifference here embodies control, not apathy nor coldness, but emotional, psychological, spiritual mastery. Nietzsche recognized that true power stems not from domination, but detachment, not seclusion from fear, but transcendence of emotional triggers others wield. You know the inducements. Texts meant to inflame, subtle criticisms baiting approval, prolonged silences meant to unsettle self-worth. Truthfully, those who wield emotions to manipulate fear your tranquility. Your unpredictability defies their control strategies. Indifference equates to the refusal to perform upon command, the discipline to witness without engaging, the skill to hear without internalizing the insult, and to observe manipulation without retort. When reactive predictability diminishes, their control dissipates. Reflect on the energy expended explaining yourself, analyzing silences, hinging confidence on attention spans. All spent energy, gone without acknowledgement of its worth. Indifference reclaims it, not void of care, but care exercised discerningly. Not all opinions access your serenity. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every invitation merits your presence. Here's the crux. Unpredictability engenders psychological authority. People unsettled by your emotional independence begin self-inquiry. Users begin craving comprehension, deeming what was once dismissed intriguing. Space now compelling, absence a felt deprivation. Indifference reshapes your self-image, halting your role as others' character, heralding authorship of your narrative. Those who presumed comprehension chase a non-existent past version of you. Mystery, Nietzsche argued, wields strength, not weakness. In an oversharing world, mystery's rarity erodes. Everyone divulges everything, from emotions to mundane details, while words lose currency with overuse. Scarcity breeds value, even in emotional presence. Restraint, purposefully stepping back from constant revelations. Independence from public broadcast intensifies psychological tension. They begin to ponder, what occupies them now? Why the silence? Did my actions drive them away? Have they transformed? Such spaces inspire intrigue and reflection, reclaiming privacy and enigma, not out of game playing, but self-preservation. Let's face it, when someone no longer seeks your endorsement, it creates unease. When an individual remains unfazed, doesn't seek to correct misconceptions, and avoids the urge to pursue, it compels a re-evaluation of all assumptions held about them. They transform into an unfinished narrative, perpetually engaging, a lingering enigma, a riddle that remains unsolved. This is the true nature of allure. It's not rooted in deceit. Rather, it is based on constraint. It's not about being aloof. It's about maintaining composure. It's not about excluding everyone. It's about preserving one's own enigma. Mystery provokes inquisitiveness, which in turn cultivates attachment, not the kind born of desperation, but that which subtly persists. It draws others in effortlessly. The unpredictability in one's actions commands deeper scrutiny. When individuals recognize that your emotions, time, and presence are no longer theirs to claim, they begin to value everything they once overlooked. Paradoxically, the less you disclose, the greater their urge to understand. It's a contradiction Nietzsche comprehended completely. It's the hidden formula for silently, yet earnestly, regaining control. Most people struggle to admit a stark truth. They fear solitude, not because they dread their own company, but because they have never truly encountered themselves. They've spent eons performing and placating, and thus silence feels suffocating. The notion of solitary travel is daunting. Yet Nietzsche asserted that solitude isn't a void, it's a height. When one dares to journey alone, absent the need for constant affirmation, a profound transformation begins. Here's the irony. When you cease seeking connection, the right individuals realize your absence. Once you are no longer perpetually accessible, they find you unforgettable. Denied easy access, those who once took you for granted start to feel your absence intensely. Your silence lays bare what words cannot, and your distance kindles a desire more potent than the demand for attention has ever been. Solitude, though, necessitates fortitude. It demands the bravery to endure misinterpretation, the resolve to embrace discomfort without retreating for validation, the courage to say, "I'd prefer to wander in solitary truth than dwell in surrounding deceit." Once solitude is no longer synonymous with emptiness, you become formidable in the most positive sense, not due to intimidation, but through independence. When people sense they've lost access to someone they once deemed dependent, that's when they start chasing, not from affection, but out of fear of being left behind by someone who has finally commenced their ascent. Have you ever noticed the need to justify peace, to articulate one's quietude, to defend self-defined boundaries in a world where calm is erroneously equated to arrogance and self-defense mistaken for conceit? Nietzsche foresaw this. The more elaboration one provides, the greater their erosion of power becomes, because explanation transcends clarity. It veers into surrender. Each instance of justifying one's silence, preference for withdrawal, or refusal to partake bows down to others' consent. Gradually, one becomes answerable to external approval rather than guided by their own beacon. Yet the moment explanation ceases, transformation is inevitable. People find themselves without a script, unable to wield the narrative. There's no label to attach, no shame to project. They cannot twist you into the persona that once tendered apologies for self-prioritization. The refusal to explain becomes an act of defiance. It signifies unwavering confidence in one's choices, void of permission-seeking. Here's what unravels many. The profound silence, not simply an absence of sound, but an inner tranquility that resonates. I don't need your understanding to honor my truth. People rarely panic in response to loud commotion. They panic when predictability vanishes, when reactions remain dormant, when words cease entirely. That's when the shift occurs. Those who led the discourse start to waver. Those who demanded clarification become preoccupied with your absence. Those who presumed you would always be there, responsive, yielding, finally realize they've lost something never truly appreciated. You owe no explanations for deciding on peace, not for rejecting negativity, not for proceeding quietly, not for distancing from turmoil, bedlam, or emotional burdens. In a society obsessed with reaction, your serenity becomes a menace, your withdrawal a provocation, your silence a tempest. Once you refrain from explaining your value, others spend their time deciphering it themselves. People rarely pursue what is perpetually available. They pursue what they fear slipping from their grasp. This cruel beauty of human nature maintains a stark truth. We often fail to cherish something until it's drifted beyond reach. Nietzsche grasped this enigma. He understood that detachment doesn't repel. It makes others recognize your worth, absent the distractions of excessive need or exposure. Relinquishing the fight for a place in someone's sphere grants them the clarity to understand what's lost. There is a distinct shift. When curiosity is piqued, when reciprocity ceases, when habitual presence vanishes, their intuition sharpens, not from an increased affinity, but due to an unfamiliarity with the unyielding version now presented. Detachment does not imply a lack of care. It signifies the cessation of abandoning oneself for those indifferent to your disappearance. You become valuable when ceasing to offer discounts continuously. Truthfully, as long as availability reigns supreme, predictability suffices. Predictability extinguishes curiosity, extinguishes desire, extinguishes respect. By detaching, by redirecting energy internally, you invert dynamics. Love isn't pursued. You embody it. Selection isn't sought. You initiate it. Reaction loses its hold while magnetism takes shape. Then everything transforms. Suddenly, they revisit past dialogues. They check with shared acquaintances about your well-being. They're surveilling your online presence for signals, because the version they believed constant has vanished. You become one who doesn't pursue, and in absence, presence resonates more profoundly than before. Within Nietzsche's insights, power lies not with those who shout the loudest, but among those who depart in composed silence, never to return. It reaches a point when explanations cease, pursuit halts, reactions dwindle, and people take notice, filled with trepidation. Yet rather than confronting themselves, they project outward. Suddenly, you are deemed aloof, arrogant, self-centered. You've transformed, they'll proclaim. And they are correct. You have evolved, not in the manner imagined, but because the bland roles assigned are no longer assumed. Thus, freedom from the fixer persona becomes evident. The emotional safety blanket, forever amenable, endlessly compliant self is relinquished. That self vanishes as soon as realization dawns. Understanding is unnecessary for tranquility.
Nietzsche advocated that genuine liberty does not arise from external validation. It originates from indifferent misunderstanding. Fully accurate perception is no essential. Fidelity to one's self is paramount. Let them brand you distant. Let them misconstrue your stillness. Allow unfounded narratives to fill the void once occupied by verbose justifications.
That is no longer yours to bear. Free from misunderstanding's threat, you gain untouchability. There's a different stride, a distinct influence. Rooms acknowledge your absence more than they ever did your presence. Let conjecture and speculation abound. They wonder why connection eludes them, why reaching you seems impossible now. When peace is prioritized over their comfort, growth over their commendation, honesty over constructed identities, you progress beyond any reach previously controlled. This evolution triggers a pursuit of shadows, in vain hopes of recapturing what once was. But you've already transcended, leaving no trace behind. There exists a serene prowess, unaccompanied by clamor, absence of solicitation or pretense. It's the strength born of becoming untouchable, not from concealment, but through transcending superficial din. Reaching this state shifts the entire balance. Perceptions change without understanding its cause. Your essence is removed from disposable availability. You've ceased indulging in disorder and avoided engagement from those indifferent to your open-door policy. The response, unfailingly consistent. They panic, then seek. Nietzsche proposed this secret. Those chasing post-departure were never enamored by authenticity. Fondness lay with compliance, availability, emotional commitment. That version vanished, rendering pursuit mere attempts at regaining control, not re-establishing connection. Becoming unreachable isn't egocentric. It's an alignment with the soul, a decision made to safeguard your vitality for people, places, and endeavors that invigorate your essence rather than deplete it. For when you allow the world indiscriminate access to your being, it ceases to see you as exceptional. Yet when you withdraw, when you deliberately allocate your time, attention, and energy, you transform into a beacon. You shed the cacophony. You become the resonance. You are no longer merely seen. You are profoundly sensed. And in this realization, you grasp that the pursuit was never a necessity. For what is genuine, what is destined, requires no compulsion. It gravitates toward your calm, not your exertion. Allow them to pursue the version of yourself that has ceased to exist. You reside elsewhere now, and you are not returning. The world is enraptured by clamor, endless reaction, unceasing affirmation. Perform, justify, conform, repeat. But Nietzsche presented a daring alternative. Step away from this cycle and observe as the entire perspective shifts. You need not strive to be noticed, nor must you plead for appreciation. And certainly, you need not perennially validate your worth to those who never perceived beyond what you could offer them. When you cease appearing merely for approval, you liberate yourself from manipulation. When you cease to react, you begin to command. And when you depart silently, you leave not just an absence, but a legacy. For in a world insatiable for recognition, the one who does not seek it becomes indelible. So if these words resonate with you now, if something within you murmurs finally, you already understand the path forward. There is no need to proclaim your transformation. Simply disappear and let the quietude articulate it. This has been the Deep Dive Psychology Podcast. If you yearn for more insight, more profundity, and greater autonomy, do more than watch. Become. Subscribe and embark on a journey inward. Until our next meeting, safeguard your vitality, because that is your true wealth.